I want our children to understand this well. The non-Muslims are the enemies of Allah. Therefore, they are your enemies. Some of them don't even believe that Allah exists. You want somebody like that to be a close friend of yours?
Enough is enough. That's what Tim Thielmann, a lawyer and Conservative Party of British Columbia MLA candidate for Victoria Beacon Hill, is saying when it comes to a double standard he believes is happening regarding a lack of response to Jew hatred and the extremism that fuels it in the city. I'm Drea Humphrey with Rebel News, and in today's report you'll hear from Rabbi Lynn Greenhough, who says that her husband was assaulted during one of many anti-Israel protests taking place in Victoria since the Hamas terrorist attack on Israel October 7th of last year. You'll also hear from Thielmann, who recently put out a call to action for Victoria's police, mayor and city council, and his election counterparts, inviting them all to join him in condemning acts of Jew hatred and intimidation, including disturbing words taught by an imam named Yanos Katrara.
You think that they are your friends? No, they're the enemies of Allah. So if they're the enemies of Allah, how are they your close friends? I want our children to understand this well. The non-Muslims are the enemies of Allah. Therefore, they are your enemies.
Why was it important to put out this call to action in this letter form?
Well, we have a religious extremist here in Victoria. He's been here since about 2018. And he's called for the, quote, annihilation of the plundering Jews. He's compared Jews to the descendants of apes and pigs.
Look at Gaza today, and you will know clearly that the Zionist Jews had horrible predecessors, and today they are even worse than their predecessors. Those about whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said what means? They are those whom Allah has cursed and with whom He became angry. And He made some of them apes and pigs.
Like he's, since October the 7th, he's become one of the most prominent advocates for Hamas. He's literally praised Hamas murderers and castigated his own congregation for not emulating them enough. So this has been happening in plain daylight. Recent reports revealed earlier this year that the City of Victoria's grant funding had gone to the group Muslim Youth of Victoria, which operates his Islamic Center and posts his hate sermons every month onto Facebook profiles that have 25,000 followers. Meanwhile, we have a Jewish community here and abroad in BC and elsewhere that understandably feel threatened. How would you feel if you had a prominent religious figure calling for the death of your people? He's been here, like I said, since 2018. The premier was Attorney General. David Eby was Attorney General here during that time. He didn't do anything about it. The current Attorney General, Nikki Sharma, she hasn't done anything about it. And, the city's funded him and the police have looked the other way. So something has to be done. And so I issued this call to action.
The Zionists are occupiers. They are the aggressors. They came to a land that doesn't belong to them. They are the criminals. That Israel has the right to defend herself. What they are saying is that the Zionists have the right to wipe out the Muslims of Palestine. Allahumma alayka bil Yahud al-ghasibin. Allahumma alayka bil Yahud al-mujrimin. Allahumma alayka bihim fa innahum la yu'jizunak. Allahumma arina fihim yawman aswada. Allahumma rudda kaydahum fi nuhurihim. Allahumma zalzil al-arda min tahti aqdamihim.
If we're going to have hate speech laws, then surely this is it. I mean, if this doesn't classify as hate speech, I don't know what would.
Now, you're a lawyer, and speaking of hate speech, you've put together a bunch of documents and presented them to the Chief of Police as well as BC's Attorney General, just sort of outlining some of the concerns here. When you look at the criminal code, you seem to be finding that things are breached. What's some of the most egregious examples of that?
Well, here's the connection. A recent report showed that this imam, his name is Yumas Kathrada, has met with the UVic Muslim Students Association on at least one occasion. Current members of that association are reported to be among the organizers of these weekly anti-Israel demonstrations. So at these demonstrations, I wrote a 26-page legal brief and gave it to the Chief of Police and to the Attorney General, Nikki Sharma. And what you see is, hundreds of people marching unlawfully through city streets, violating sections 233, sections 230 of the Criminal Code, which basically say you can't block public highways, you can't block motorists, and this is happening with a police escort every week. And during these marches, you have organizers leading people in calls for an intifada revolution. They say, there is only one solution, intifada revolution.
Resist! Palestine shall exist! There is only one solution! Intifada revolution! Long live the Intifada!
Well, during the Second Intifada, for those of you that don't know, over 1,100 Jews were murdered by suicide bombers and other terrorists. The majority of those, 75% or so, were civilians, and mostly women and children, in markets, on buses. And so you'll forgive me for sympathizing with Jews in this community, some of whom have lived through the Holocaust, who are rightly raising the alarm. And so I just felt compelled to use what little platform I have to raise these issues. And it's also the reason why I didn't want to do this alone. So I want to talk about this. Over the last 2 weeks, I approached Grace Lohr, who's the MLA here in Victoria Beacon Hill, as well as Sonia Furstenau, who's the leader of the BC Greens, and also is going to be running in this riding alongside of myself and Grace in Victoria Beacon Hill. And I invited both of them to join me as co-signatories to this letter calling for action. To put aside partisan differences and to stand together for vulnerable people who are under attack. And that included reaching out through a respected mutual colleague in the Jewish community. And what I heard back was, we don't want to sign our name beside yours, because we have disagreements with you or your party over other issues.
Now, you also quoted a Rabbi Lynn Greenhough, who alleges that her husband was actually assaulted at one of these protests. Let's take a look.
I think people have become more and more frightened because, as we've seen here in Victoria from really the very first march downtown, when I spoke with the police about trying to get them to step in and be, at the very least, a moderating force, but to try and stop these marches, and was told that, basically we can't arrest 500 people. We knew then, and what we are seeing as a result of those marches is an exponential degree of increase in violent language, which we know is really a step away from violent action. And so we have a lot of people very worried, very concerned. It's very, very troubling because we've seen this happen before, and we're seeing it happen again. And so a lot of us are very concerned, very worried. Whether we speak out and we're told, you need to be more careful, or whether we don't speak out and we're told you need to speak up more, we're all feeling a little bit that the numbers are working against us. There's more people speaking against Israel, speaking against Jews. The violence is increasing, and we're very frightened. We were immediately surrounded in kind of a scrum. And, these events, you've probably been following them enough to know the don't touch me line. So we were immediately surrounded by this scrum of people who, by and large, very sadly for me, were Jews. And not a person to back away very readily. My husband was there. He didn't want me to go, but of course he came to support me. And during one of those scrums, a young woman, I didn't see this directly, but other people did, reached up and slugged him in the face, and really slugged him, and then immediately ran away. So it was kind of lost and dispersed in the crowd. Eventually, of course, the car rally, they continued on their way. And one of the saddest part of that whole event for me was at the very end, the last car left Ogden Point with Palestinian flags hanging out the window. And there was this small group of Jews who'd been used to surround us, left behind. And there they were standing across the road from us. It was kind of tragic and sad. I mean, I'm very sad that's the side of the political front that they're on, but they were abandoned at the very end. And as they stood across the road from us, they started singing Hebrew songs. And I felt very sorry for them. So my husband reported the incident to the police, and even as he was reporting, he said, "There's not a chance you're going to find this young woman, dark hair, right? And she will also be very much protected by her comrades, as they're wont to call each other." I would add that we have an individual here in Victoria who has been here for a number of years, posting videos that are full of incredibly hateful language about Jews. The realm of his language, as far as I can see, and I'm not alone in this, far exceeds any ideal of religiosity. And Cathedra, and I'm not going to give him a title because I don't believe he deserves a title, has contributed and continues to contribute to organizational hatred of Jews with the permission of political leadership in Victoria, with the permission of police, with the permission of all of the leaderships where we would expect protection. They have all failed to close this man down.
Now, you're running to be a candidate for Victoria Beacon Hill. Why stick your neck out on this issue when it seems like there is so much support the other way?
Well, a lot of people told me you shouldn't talk about anything except for the cost of living. Cost of living, cost of living, cost of living. And I care a lot about the cost of living. I care a lot about the fact that people can't afford food, that rent has doubled in 5 years. I care a lot about healthcare. There's 1 million people without a family doctor. I care a lot about the misery on our streets. But whether it's politically popular or not, we have individuals calling for the death of their neighbors in our city. And the police are asleep, the city's funding them, and our political leaders won't do anything about it. So I just think it's crazy. Like, who are we as a people? I think we need to be able to have honest, vigorous debate on foreign policy, on the issues and the tragedy that's unfolding in Israel and Palestine. But we can disagree about the conflict abroad and at the same time agree that we don't treat each other here in Victoria this way, that it's totally unacceptable for anybody to be threatening the lives of other individuals and groups, period.
At Rebel News, we believe in the right to peacefully protest, but that doesn't mean the right to support acts of terror. If you believe that non-citizens who are here supporting and applauding terrorism should be deported from Canada, sign and share our petition for doing just that at deporthamas.com.